I'm going to talk about the design of places, the design of cities. As we heard earlier, half the world's population live in cities, that's over 4 billion people. But do cities offer us the quality of the built environment that we should expect as citizens? Now, I've really spent my working life trying to study the way that we design cities, and I would argue that no, we don't on the whole. We don't have that quality of place that we should expect. Too often, we sort of fail to understand the value of well-designed places, or even what good design, good urban design might be. Now, is this working? Oh, there we are. Oscar Wilde famously derided a man who knows the price of everything and the value of nothing. When designing and developing our built environments, I would say that too often the focus is on the price of everything rather than its value. This machine doesn't seem to be working. Oh, there we are. It's working a bit slow, I think. Or we only understand value in a very limited sense, namely short-term and economic value. Now, over the years, I've had many local politicians, planners, community representatives contacting me to ask how we can convince others, namely those with the money, that a better designed built environment is something worth investing in. In other words, that it has value beyond its price. Where is the evidence, they ask? And this question eventually led to what I'm going to talk about today, which is the Place Value Project. So let's think about cities. Cities are made up of a huge diversity of places and people, and our individual experience will depend on who we are, on where and how we live. Most significantly, it will depend on whether is that working? That's not working either. Oh, there we are, that's working now. So most significantly, it would depend on whether we live in places of poverty or places of prosperity. But whoever we are, I would argue that the quality of places, and most specifically how they are designed, will profoundly impact on our experience of those places. This experience of place is fundamental to our physical and mental health and sense of well-being. Place underpins economic productivity and opportunities. Place dictates the social and cultural experiences available to us. Place has an impact on our democracy, community togetherness, and sense of empowerment. It impacts on environmental emissions and pollution, and influences real estate markets of all types. The quality of places, specifically how they are designed, influences all of these things and more. But you don't have to believe me. I'm already convinced. The Place Value Project aimed to give those good local politicians, planners, community representatives, the ammunition they needed to make the case that design quality was something worth investing in, and to help them to convince others. The project centered around the building of an online resource called Place Value Wiki. Now, Place Value Wiki brings together hard empirical evidence to show that the sorts of impacts that I've been talking about are not just a woolly wish list of factors that people like me wheel out when we're asked to speak, but they have behind them hard empirical evidence. In other words, that it's worth investing in a high-quality built environment. The initial data to populate the wiki derived from a number of systematic searches that attempted to find evidence that linked some aspect of quality, for example, the planting of street trees. It seems to be going around by itself. The planting of street trees, let me see if I can get to the right place, hold on. Sorry about this. So the planting of street trees, for example, and what impact that had on walkability. Did more people walk because the quality of the built environment was more conducive to walking, and therefore was there, for example, a health dividend? So initially we started with almost 14,000 resources, online resources. We whittled that down to 300 of the most empirically robust studies, international studies, and the aim was to compile and synthesize the evidence and to make it available through the wiki in a way that others could use, that linked different aspects of value with different aspects of quality, in other words. And in the process, it revealed new, different perspectives on quality and value. So starting with value, the value of something is often equated to its worth in narrow economic terms. But value also has a much broader meaning that equates to the importance or the significance of the thing being valued. Another way of thinking about value, therefore, is the degree to which different qualities of the built environment impact either positively or negatively on different policy priorities. The wiki, consequently, tried to gather together evidence under four big-ticket policy arenas, the sort of things that governments everywhere are interested in: health, society, the economy, the environment. And these are the areas, of course, which elections are won and lost. The other side of the coin is place quality. Most of the research studies included in the wiki focus on some particular quite narrow aspect of quality. For example, whether movable seats in public spaces allow for greater sociability. Quite narrow, defined aspects of quality. One way of answering the question, therefore, what is meant by place quality, might be that a well-designed place is that which returns the greatest value to its users, sustaining them in a healthy, socially rich, and economically productive lifestyles that touch lightly on the built environment. The evidence, the empirical evidence we found, coalesced around 23 themes. Sorry, it seems to have jumped forward again. 23 themes around which all sorts of evidence can be found. And this evidence turns out to be hugely diverse. For example, better quality places, better designed places lead to better mental health. Less stressful, more psychological, restful environments reduce depression and anxiety, for example. It delivers also lower rates of crime, lower rates of street crime, lower rates of crime in the home. Place quality results in property uplift, for example, in the office sector, with reduced vacancy and depreciation. Place quality also reduces energy use and associated carbon greenhouse gas emissions through reduced movement around the city, more walkability, less cooling required, and so forth. Now, I've not got time to go through all of the evidence now and all of the impacts. There's a fascinating paper which you can download free on this subject called Place Value, if you're that way inclined. But what I want to do in the time that's left to me is to focus on the sorts of places that deliver this type of value, and specifically on the qualities that do so. And to crudely summarize, rather than building this sort of place, which is sprawling, disconnected, single-use, roads-dominated, which delivers short-term profit for the landowner and developer, in other words, economic value, at the expense of place value, or building this, which is the view I can see out of my hotel window here, in fact, we should be building this sort of place, which is compact, connected, mixed use, green, which delivers long-term place value and still makes a good, healthy profit. To help us understand this, it's possible to envision a ladder of qualities, starting from those qualities that we need to avoid because they're bad for us, essentially, those sort of qualities I talked about, car dependency, segregated areas, and so forth. Then there's a series of qualities that we need to be careful about, we need to be aware of, because the evidence is not definitive on these sorts of issues, like the structure of our streets, shared spaces, living in high-rise developments. The evidence is not equivocal on these issues. Some evidence, good evidence, can lead us to certain qualities that we should aspire for, like natural surveillance, sense of place, attractive and continuous public realm, and then at the top of the ladder is a set of qualities that we know are good for us. The evidence is definitive, and we should acquire these. Public transport connectivity, a mix of uses, walkability, low levels of traffic, greenness, bikeability, and compact and coherent patterns of development. It's not a very long list. And we can put these on a ladder, and you can download that ladder if you're interested from the Place Alliance website. Just to illustrate very briefly, comparing the Goldsmith Street development in Norwich in England, which won the Sterling Prize. Why did it do that? Well, it's connected, it's walkable, it's green, it's mixed, it's low traffic, it's compact and coherent, and it helps to build a coherent community. And compare that with just 3 miles down the road, also in Norwich, Miller's Field, which isn't a field at all any longer, but which is, in fact, disconnected, car-dominated, hard, single-use, car-dependent, sprawling and socially alienating, and therefore bad for us in all of these respects. So, 3 very quick conclusions from all this work. 99% of all of that empirical evidence that I talked about points essentially in the same direction. That these sort of qualities that I've talked about are essentially good or bad for us and deliver place value, and we should have regard to the evidence. Secondly, that there is this virtuous loop between the quality of places and the value that it returns to us, that public value, that place value. And finally, that none of this should be a luxury. It's a basic necessity of life that we should be building places that are of high quality because the value it returns to us in terms of our health, the environment, the economy, and in terms of our social life and social place. So, the evidence is clear. You can read the evidence. If we ignore it, then we will need to suffer the consequences as a society. So read the evidence, climb the ladder. Thank you very much, and apologies for the technical problems.